Alrighty, we are live. And let me just make sure everything's connected. But yep, welcome back to the Caspa Silver YouTube channel. We're gonna wait for people to hop in here, but it should be up on X right now, and hopefully we'll start funneling in. All right, so welcome everyone. I am speaking with Vijay, and he was a Bitcoin Maxi, but he is currently embracing Caspa slowly and trying to increase his understanding on Caspa. Please let me know down in the chat if you guys hear us all right. We're gonna kind of just keep talking here. But Vijay, give us your background, your backstory, like what you do, how you got into crypto. Just, lay it all out. Give us your story.
Well, first of all, I'm honored to be here, Mr. Silver. So, I watched a handful of your videos, learned a little bit of Caspa from you, and then when you started DMing me, I'm like, okay, this is cool that I'm getting attention from people like you who are here helping the community. And honestly, I didn't know anything about Caspa until about a month and a half ago, maybe just a month ago. But I guess my crypto/Bitcoin journey started in 2015-ish. Basically, I went to a conference with a friend from work, and or I'll say 2016. Went to a conference and they told me it's like, hey, it's about blockchain or whatnot. I didn't really know anything about it. Went there and literally went for the food because it's like, hey, dude, come on, it's like 2 hours. Let's go. It's downtown. So went there and it was great. I was learning a lot, but it wasn't even about Bitcoin. They were talking about Ethereum and all that. And this was, I think, during the block size wars, as I look back, because I had no idea like all this. And so that's when Ethereum was starting to get momentum and all that. So I bought, I think, a little bit of Ethereum, a couple $100 maybe, nothing crazy. And as I was, after I left the conference, I didn't think anything of it. But then a few years later, I got reintroduced to Bitcoin. Someone messaged me. They're like, hey, Vijay, what do you think of buying Bitcoin? And I'm like, it's a obvious bubble. It's a scam. I mean, why would he buy this? It doesn't produce cash flow. And again, this is someone who had an undergrad in finance. This is me working at a bank. And I'm like, Bitcoin's obviously a scam. And then exactly what happened was they bought it right at 19,000 and then it crashed to 3,000. And I'm like, dude, that sucks. I mean, I told you, but at the same time, right around that time, I think it was 2019, someone online was paying me like something in Bitcoin. I'm like, yeah, sure, why not? $15. And so they sent it to my Coinbase. Or created a Coinbase account. They sent it there. And then I added another $100 or so just because I'm like, okay, I don't just want $15. I didn't think of Bitcoin for a few years. And then 2022, I'm just like, okay, Bitcoin is doing something. Let me just add a little bit more money. And then again, I didn't think anything of this asset class. I'm like, hey, real estate's a way to build wealth. That's how everyone's made money. So I was really trying to build out my real estate business. And so I bought 2 houses. I was house hacking. I lived in one room, rented out the other 4 bedrooms in my house. So living basically rent-free, cash flowing, and taking all my money, funneling it into index funds because I'm like, okay, how do I retire early? And that's just what I know because I was in the FIRE community. And it's all about, hey, live below your means, invest in index funds because it is a provable, or it's a path to wealth, but I didn't understand monetary debasement at the time. I'm just like, yeah, if you invest a ton, in a few decades, you'll be worth a couple $1 million. But I didn't realize how bad that couple $1 million would actually be in purchasing power terms, even though I'm like, yeah, it looks nice, but it's not actually. And that's how the entire, I guess, traditional finance community thinks. It's like, hey, yeah, if you invest this much, you'll be worth a couple million, but it's really not worth a couple million. And so fast forward a few years, I move out to Seattle. This was 2024. I go to a lunch and this gentleman I sat next to, he's like, somehow we randomly started talking about Bitcoin. And quick pause, I didn't realize that Seattle was such a big spot for Bitcoin. There's a huge Bitcoin community here. And it's just like, I see a lot of stickers and like license plates promoting Bitcoin. And I thought it's actually really fascinating. So somehow we started talking about Bitcoin. And then he asked me, he's like, have you heard of Michael Saylor? And I'm like, I have no idea who that is. It's like, listen to this Q3 earnings report call. And I'm like, okay, sure. So he sent it to me, exchanged numbers. We went and grabbed coffee. I listened to it and I think Michael Saylor orange pilled me because I've never heard anyone talk with so much conviction about Bitcoin. And I'm like, okay, I'm starting to understand. Now we're getting corporate adoption, or more people are talking about it from an institutional side. They have billions of dollars. I'm like, it's not just a retail thing anymore. And then I completely missed the news that BlackRock even had ETFs. It literally happened earlier that year, and I just wasn't following the news, and I didn't realize that. I'm like, huh, okay, institutions are here. And I am not hearing anything about this, not being in the Bitcoin community. If I was, I'd be like, oh, this is huge. Let's go all in. But I didn't even hear it. And so after that, I started listening to Rajat Soni and Matt Crater, all these Bitcoin influencers, Bitcoin Simply. That's all I did every morning. Went to the gym, just listened to them, and I'm just like, yeah, my conviction just kept growing more and more and more. So eventually, what ended up happening was late last year, 2024, I sold one of my rental properties and funneled most of the proceeds into Bitcoin. Of course, I had to pay taxes, so I didn't actually get that much because it was a rental. And then I started selling most of my index funds, start putting it into Bitcoin. And this is in my retirement account. So yeah, I have to trust Fidelity with my retirement account. But Fidelity, at least in Washington, they have a Roth IRA, like crypto Roth IRA. And so you can actually have Bitcoin, even though it's custody by Fidelity. So I'm like, okay, it's a bit there. So I have a bunch of Bitcoin exposure there. And then I really thought Bitcoin was the future because all the Maxi's talking about it. And I'm like, yeah, it makes sense. I completely understand. I read all the books, or a lot of books like Broken Money, the Bitcoin Standard, the Big Print. And so read all of it. It's all about Austrian economics, not necessarily they say Bitcoin is a solution, but they're talking about the problem most of the book. So I understood the problem. And then as I went deeper and deeper into Bitcoin, I think it was Egg Slonker 69 on X. He messaged me. He's like, or he commented. He's like, Vijay, what do you think of Cas? And I'm like, yeah, it's a scam. It's like, well, what makes you say that? And literally, that's how it started. And I'm just like, okay, let's go see. Is it proof of stake? No, it's not. Is it centralized? No. Is there an ICO? No. Do they have pretty strong central founder figure? And I'm like, I don't think so. And it's like, this technology actually looks pretty interesting. And it's like the fact that they asked is like, what makes you think that? It's like, okay, I just want to get a quick answer so I can just move on with my life. I'm like, shit, I can't find anything. Again, with my limited technical knowledge, but just looking for the simple red flags, I didn't see that. And the only kind of red flag, and it's 1/1000th the size of Bitcoin. So it's super small, super early, and I see that as the biggest risk. But it's also the biggest opportunity. So that's why I'm not fully poured into Caspa, just because it's like investing in something super early. There is higher levels of risk than compared to Bitcoin, but I'm willing to invest a significant amount to have that upside exposure, but not enough to wipe me out in case I'm wrong, if that makes sense. So I guess that's how I found Kaspa. I mean, literally just from the community, just messaging me on X. And after that, I'm just like, okay, I feel like I've been living in a bubble for the last year or so, just being in Bitcoin. And again, great community. I really like most Bitcoiners. Some of them are actually pretty toxic, but I'd say most of them are very kind people, very intellectually curious, but some of them are very closed-minded. They're like Bitcoin only, everything else is shitcoin because it makes sense. I mean, there's been 10 million plus coins out there. 99% of them are rug pulls. And then one honest project like Caspa, and it's like, I'm not even going to look at it because it's not worth my time until you start seeing more people talk about it. It's like, okay, fine, let me take a look. Let me see people like Bitcoin or AJ or a Lost Bitcoin or some of these other accounts that are literally Bitcoin maxis. But then they're like, okay, let me actually be a little bit curious and look at Caspa. So that's how my journey started. That's why I'm here. I'm excited to see the adoption. I mean, 2 billion, 3 billion market cap. I think it's, again, not price predictions, but if it's actually going to compete against Ethereum, that's 100x right there. Similar to how we compare Bitcoin to gold, that's a 10x right there to just match, just to get at parity with the market cap of, I guess, an inferior asset, which is supposed to solve the same thing. So that's where I'm at.
Yeah, that's a really awesome story. Yeah, it seems you've taken like the we call them like sailor maxis. So like basically sailor kind of like convinces a person to get into Bitcoin. And then they basically just go down the rabbit hole. And then when it comes to Caspa now, it's a whole different ball game because it's kind of like reopening the doors that have been closed on the whole entire meaning and purpose of cryptocurrency, which was to legitimately replace our daily fiat so that we're not using like fiat. It could literally become a choice for us, and it's no longer a requirement for us. And that's like the main purpose of Bitcoin when it first was created. And today we are now witnessing institutions get involved and it becoming more of just like this asset that's just kind of like you just store your value in it and not so much you actually use it as money. So I kind of want to ask you actually, do you view Bitcoin as money, or how do you view it? Because I mean, people say it's money, but to me, if something's money, it would be something that is easy to use in place of other money.
Right. I've been told Bitcoin is the perfect money, and I believed it. And I realized, okay, maybe not the base layer because it's meant for finality. If I'm buying a house, I'm okay transacting using Bitcoin. It'll take maybe 2 hours. But compare that to a wire that gets sent on Friday, I don't receive it till Monday. I mean, it's night and day different between the current financial system and the base layer Bitcoin. But we're in a generation or technological age where we want things even more instant than 2 hours uh, right settlement. And so then we go to layer two, and this is where I started getting tripped up because I remember trying to orange pill people. I told them to download uh, one of these Bitcoin Lightning wallets. I'm blanking on the name, but I just sent it to them. And at the time, like, hey, that's yours. And like, because I sent it, it was instant. But then I look back and like, no, it actually wasn't. It's like an IOU too. It's a Lightning payment. They have a kind of a claim on a Bitcoin, but then they have to convert it back into real Bitcoin. And so I'm like, but it is usable. If people don't actually care about centralization or censorship issues, I think Bitcoin is fine. The problem arises when it literally goes against the ethos of peer to peer. And so it's kind of like, do people actually value sovereignty? And some of them do. But I'm thinking for 8 billion people, a lot of them genuinely don't even understand basic personal finance, let alone what's happening in the like fiat monetary system, and then how Bitcoin was a possible solution. And so I feel like if we're being honest with ourselves, I don't actually think it's going to be an issue for most people to be onboarded on a centralized platform, even if it is prone to censorship, even if it goes against the ethos of Bitcoin. But knowing that, I'm like, okay, it's a good enough solution. We could figure it out. But then Caspa comes into the scene. It's like, hey, you actually don't have to compromise any of that. And that's where it's like, it's actually really interesting. Even though Bitcoin has a massively bigger advantage, I mean, 1,000 times bigger, and it's going to continue growing because of word of mouth, and people are just watching that one ticker BTC versus, the rest of the crypto market. I think Bitcoin's going to continue growing. That's why that's one of the reasons why I haven't divested out of Bitcoin, because it's not about what I believe, it's what I believe the rest of the population believes is going to happen. Right? That's just basically what investing is, or speculation maybe. So Bitcoin had the potential to be money, and it still does if people don't value centralization or censorship. And I don't really know if people even think about it. They're just like, hey, my money's at a bank. They think it's their money. They don't even realize it's an IOU. And so I'm genuinely thinking, I'm like, is it really an issue if people aren't even aware that it's an issue?
Yeah, yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? I mean, do you think it's an issue if people aren't aware it's an issue?
I think I agree with you that a lot of people may not value self-sovereignty at all, or value the fact that their money is becoming softer when they move to other layers. Um, but then what I see is that what Bitcoin originally presented was never tapped into. The original ethos never got tapped into, which I believe is still a huge market, because if we could actually tap into this and fix a lot of issues with our fiat system, this will benefit the whole world, because the whole world has to deal with money, and the issues of money affects everybody. whether you like it or not. Even if you think like, oh, it's not affecting, it's still affecting you, even if you don't want to accept it. So to me, I just see Caspa and I'm like, okay, well, it's tapping into markets that Bitcoin could never tap into, just simply because it can't scale right now. And trying to scale Bitcoin, obviously, no one wants to, I mean, the developers don't want to do it. Um, so it's kind of just stuck. And when I was in crypto, originally I was in crypto for just simply like, okay, I want to build wealth. I want to make money much faster than the stock market. But then it was getting very stressful because like a lot of people, you dive in, you're looking at every single coin, maybe you're trying to trade and mess around and all that kind of stuff. And that can be very stressful, especially when like our goal is to get financial freedom and to have money be a tool for us, not something that we're just trying to acquire to have more of and just for the sake of having more of, but actually to use it as a tool for freedom. And I don't feel free if I'm stressed out analyzing every single new thing that comes out and all this kind of stuff. So then that's what kind of led me to Bitcoin and then down the sound money rabbit hole. And then while I was looking for Bitcoin, I discovered Caspa, and then seeing everything that Caspa offers, to me, I just could not ignore it. I mean, I felt silly to ignore it because, especially for me, I'm much younger. I grew up with technology in my life, and I see how the future generation is going to be very accustomed to technology. Right now, Bitcoin is trying to market to a lot of people who have no idea really about technology in the same way how someone like I do when I grew up with it. All of these people got it way later. They lived 20, 30 years without it. And so it's so new to them. But these people who are trying to understand Bitcoin now, there's just one major difference is when they're trying to learn Bitcoin, and if they actually dive into it, they realize Bitcoin is kind of like behind in terms of where the rest of technology is today. And I think that alone is one of the issues with trying to onboard people into Bitcoin. That scaling factor, just because it's not existing, could hurt Bitcoin actually in the long run, because these systems, at the end of the day, they are proof of work systems, and proof of work systems can only survive if they are used. And if everyone has this mentality of Bitcoin's just digital gold, which I think is very limiting to Bitcoin to have that kind of mentality about it, then the system will likely fail if everyone's thinking that way. Everyone's thinking it's just something to hold on to. And then also thinking that if they go to another layer that they're using Bitcoin when really they're not. I mean, for the longest time, I was paying my barber in Bitcoin back in the day. I was paying him through Cash App. And I was over here thinking like, yeah, like I'm using the future of money, and not realizing until I did the deeper dive that this whole time I have not even been really using Bitcoin. I've been using a layer 2 solution that makes my Bitcoin faster. And in reality, it's just numbers on a screen updating for each user. And Cash App is making money off of me basically, you know? So to me, I just see if Bitcoin remains in its current state, I think we will just see history repeat. Gold wasn't scalable. It wasn't as fast. So they introduced layer 2s, which was fiat, to make it scalable and faster. And then eventually
Fiat was fiat's when it's not backed by anything. It was actually paper currency. Exactly. That's backed by gold.
Which originally it was backed by gold. They claimed it.
Right.
But eventually we saw what happened. You know, then eventually they just openly admitted, hey, it's not backed by gold, because in reality we were printing more than we even had the gold. Right. So to me, I just see Bitcoin kind of falling into the same exact cycle.
So let's talk a little bit about that just for my own thought process. So with gold, it was all held at a bank, and bankers are like, hey, not everyone's redeeming it all at once, so let's issue more claims on the same gold than necessary so we can earn more in interest. Now let's compare that to Bitcoin. Is everything on layer 2, I guess, verifiable that it's one-to-one, that there is no, I guess, fractional reserve banking going on? Is that, again, I don't have that technical background, and that might be a pretty important rabbit hole to go down.
Yeah, from my understanding, layer twos or the Lightning Network is correctly it is one to one because to get Bitcoin on Lightning, you have to lock up Bitcoin, base layer one Bitcoin, and then and then you're only allowed to move the equivalent amount of whatever you've locked up on the layer one. So in that sense,
Right.
for layer twos for the Lightning Network, you'll never have to worry about kind of like it printing more Bitcoin than available. Um,
Right. I was also under the same impression there. So
yeah,
if in layer two, it's not going to be an issue where they're going to issue more IOUs, then that the risk happens with, I guess, getting people
exchanges.
on layer two, custodians,
Hmm.
or possible censorship. It's not actually peer to peer. And so my question is, just to, I guess, critically think about it, is that truly going to be an issue for most developed countries? Maybe not necessarily third world countries where they're like, hey, I actually need sovereign money because I need to escape this civil war or whatever is happening. But in developed nations, is it an issue? Because I mean, I don't personally use them, but there's like big banks like Wells Fargo or Bank of America. It's people leave their money there and they feel fine with it.
Hmm.
Now, let's say these big institutions that people already have decades long trust and relationships with come out with their own lightning wallets or whatnot. Is that truly going to be an issue with Bitcoin's adoption? Because it's the benefit is people just want to send payments, they want to store their wealth, they can adopt the Bitcoin standard. Yeah, they understand it's not truly their Bitcoin. But if there is no fractional reserve banking, is that truly an issue for developed countries? People who live in developed countries.
I mean, I think the issue becomes because I mean we've already seen exchanges collapse, and
Right.
in a sense they're collapsing because they are claiming they have more money than they actually do. So I
So
could
that's an exchange before any crypto regulation, though. What
right,
about
but I could
big
kind of
banks that
see.
are
I mean the thing is like I can kind of see a future where our banks are now accepting Bitcoin, and yeah, there may be regulation to try to keep them from printing more or claiming they have more Bitcoin than they really do. But again, I kind of just see it falling into the same issue because we already seen this happen before where gold got issued layer twos with fiat and it was backed one to one. They claimed it was back one to one, but then eventually they just discarded it and kind of just said it doesn't really matter. So I kind of just seeing the same thing play out again where
yeah.
yeah, we get this adoption, yeah, things are backed one to one, but then eventually because they realize that if you're living on a sound money standard, you can't do all the things that these elites would want to do when you're able to just print freely. We're going to kind of just fall right back into it. So, in a sense, I feel like fiat is never going to go away. That's like
Yeah.
the main thing. And so it's like since fiat is never going to go away in my opinion, it's what's the best way that we can still coexist with fiat but still have a sovereign money, and that would just be by getting cryptocurrency adopted by everyone, every store, merchant, everything like that, and then kind of just educating people that the whole point of this is to be self-sovereign. So and kind of just fight for that. Fight for the fact that people need to realize that the whole point of this is self-sovereign money. And if you are using these other layers, you're not self-sovereign anymore. You're losing your self-sovereignty. And not only that, just understanding that if you are on the other layer, you're no longer supporting the network for these networks to survive. That's like
Yeah.
the biggest thing. Like even if Bitcoin keeps doing what it's doing, it needs to be used on that base layer. And if we keep onboarding people to other layers, I mean, we're just gonna get a system that will not be sustainable. Saylor is already saying it himself that his future is the base layer is owned by institutions, and the masses are on layer twos.
Right.
That just sounds like the same system that we're in. So like, are we even replacing the system? Like it's kind of just I don't know. It just seems like
Yeah.
it's repeating to me. and it's not actually
I could
giving
make a
us.
case for that too, that it feels like it's repeating, but it's almost like so many decades out
Yeah,
that we're probably going to be in retirement, or it's probably not going to impact us, but it'll probably impact our kids or our kids' kids. And that's why a lot of
exactly.
Bitcoiners are even getting into this, right? For the future generations.
Exactly. And
So it's like,
that's my main thing. It's like Bitcoiners, say like this is for freedom for future generations. But in reality, they're not really thinking of the future. They're not thinking of the fact that, do you realize if your network's not being used as a proof of work system, it won't be sustainable.
right.
The security will drop because miners need to be
So
paid.
let's think about Caspa. Do you think it's a possibility for big institutions to utilize Caspa in a custodial sense? Because there's a lot of risk with self-custodying,
Hmm.
and most people, I'll be honest, just don't have the ability or willingness to self-custody a massive amount of wealth.
Right.
So there's going to be solutions like maybe multi-sig or collaborative custody, like what Unchained Capital is doing, or whatnot with Bitcoin. Is that going to be an issue if banks start offering these solutions even for Caspa?
I think yeah, I think it can always be an issue once any kind of entity is able to hold your money. I mean, that's always going to be a
Right.
problem. Um, but one thing about Caspa is that since it is so fast and instant, it gives people more freedom to quickly transact, quickly get off of maybe a layer two and get back onto the sovereign layer if they needed to. Whereas like in Bitcoin, it just takes so much longer to move Bitcoin around. Um,
Yeah.
but yeah, I always think anytime an entity is getting involved, I even say like people want ETFs for Caspa, like yeah, that's going to be great for liquidity, but that shouldn't be our end goal. Like I really don't get excited about ETFs because yeah, the price may go up, but that's not real adoption. Real adoption is the base layer being used, and just the number going up isn't really considered adoption. I mean, there's Bitcoiners that will try to argue that they use their Bitcoin every day, and I ask them how, and they say holding it is using it, but it's not though. Like when you really, that's not really using it. That doesn't actually, you just holding your Bitcoin does not support the network. So I think
So, I mean, you're saying it's a non-zero chance, though, that institutions could technically custody your Caspa in the future, just because, I mean, there is that demand. I mean, if I
yeah.
go tell someone's like, hey, you're going to be working 40 hours a week, you're going to get paid, but your Caspa's going to be held on this Tangem card or this Trezor if Trezor adopts it.
Mm,
They're like, dude, what happens if I lose it? What happens if I lose my seed? My entire wealth is gone. No, I need to trust somebody to hold it. And I'm sure they might even pay a fee to do it. Maybe it's collaborative
yeah.
custody. Maybe they actually just hold it. And I can make a strong case that most people are not ready to custody their own crypto
Right.
long term.
Hmm. Yeah,
And so
I could see
it's,
that.
yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I could see
So,
that point that it's like it's not like a lot of people are not ready for that, but I think it just still remains true that you should still create the system to be able to handle it if it did become true. Because the reason why, and my belief is the reason why people don't actually want to self custody is because it's slow, it's inconvenient. I mean, if it is pretty scary if you're moving millions of dollars and you're not seeing it for 10 minutes. You're just kind of waiting there. That's pretty scary. Like I don't know.
I agree. I've
Like
done
yeah,
that
like
many
if you're,
times, and I'm
so
like,
I wouldn't blame someone who's just like, I don't even want to move this thing. I don't want to touch it. I don't, because if I got to wait 10 minutes to see if it even gets to where I want it to go, that's just too scary for me. So that I think, and that's why I'm saying like the system itself incentivizes you not to use it, which is a problem. Like that creates the problem for a proof of work system because they can only survive if they're used. And with Caspa, like I don't gotta wait like it's internet speed. So then it
right.
kind of reduces any stress because I know that if I send $1 million and it's not there in a second, something went wrong, and I know it instantly. But most of the time, it's gonna be there instantly. So it reduces that fear of like fearing to move so much money. I went ahead and tested it because a lot of Bitcoiners try to say like, oh well, Litecoin and Bitcoin Cash, like these things came out and we already see their future. And I went ahead and bought some Litecoin, moved it to my wallet, bought some Bitcoin Cash, moved it to my wallet just to see like were these really improving anything? And they weren't. Like it took a very long time, more than 10 minutes, just to see my money get to where I needed to go. And I'm like, okay, so it didn't solve much of anything. It just made it a little bit faster, but still not fast enough to incentivize people to use it as peer to peer, because merchants would not want to wait that long, especially if you're waiting longer than 5 minutes. You know, what you're buying, the price could adjust because of the volatility of the asset. So if it's not moving fast enough, then it's just never going to be feasible for micropayments or using it for payments, because an hour, if you're waiting an hour for a confirmation, your asset can drop $2,000 in 1 hour. Then you lose like it. And that's why, like, one of the examples, like Steam used to
Yeah.
accept Bitcoin, and eventually they announced and they said when Bitcoin was getting used more, they had to drop it because users were trying to buy games. By the time the money was getting to where it needed to get to, Steam had to let the user know, hey, the price fluctuated, so you either need to pay a little bit more to cover that, plus pay the fee of Bitcoin to cover that. Like, it just doesn't work. You need something instant to actually be digital cash. And that's the thing with
Right.
Caspa. It's tapping into markets that Bitcoin is not tapping into. So in reality, Caspa is in its own territory of things we can't really comprehend. We don't have history to kind of tell us like what this could mean for humanity when we have a base layer that can fully keep you self-sovereign at all times and at internet
So tell me
speeds.
more about that. I mean, so that's kind of your biggest thesis about Caspa. It's going to replace Bitcoin in the long run, the base layer of the monetary system. But in the meantime, if I truly don't care about self, like let's say I run a store, I'm just like, hey, I'm just focused on selling merchandise. I don't actually care. I just need a bank to hold my Bitcoin or Caspa. I just want quick payments. I don't want to deal with credit card fees. I'll even offer a discount so I can get those. But I don't want to actually manage it because I don't want someone to go behind my store, steal my cold wallets or whatnot. And like really thinking from a user perspective, I think a lot of people would like custodial solutions just because of the risks of being self-sovereign. And like I really doubt 8 billion people want to have their own sovereignty. I really don't think that's a thing. A portion might, but I don't think most people will. And so thinking about that, like going back to Lightning, because Lightning works pretty fast. It works pretty well. Like I've bought things with Lightning. I've paid people with Lightning. Of course, it's layer 2. Caspa's layer 1. I see the technological difference, but I'm thinking from a usability standpoint, from actual adoption. Is Lightning actually that bad where people need to switch to a brand new system to basically be more self-sovereign if that's not even something they value? Because they get the same finality. I mean, not finality, but they're getting the payment. It's not necessarily theirs, but now they have that in like a checking account to send to someone else. Right? And of course, not helping the base layer, but the base layer is going to be used for I buy a house, I buy a car, I buy these bigger purchases, institutions. So I don't actually know if it's going to be an issue for the base layer when institutions start adopting it. I think I think a lot of activity is going to happen on layer 2, but I see a lot of institutions adopting the base layer, keeping Bitcoin still secure. And again, this is me talking out loud, and you tell me where I'm wrong in my thought process. Just I'm trying to understand both.
Yeah, yeah. You know, I think it just goes back to the fact that right now we don't see Bitcoin being used more. We're seeing it on the base layer. We're seeing it be used less. And so if we have a scenario where institutions are keeping Bitcoin secure, um I don't know. I mean, it just kind of just goes back to, okay, well, then Bitcoin is part of it's just part of our legacy system, and
It can be, but
it
it's
didn't
also
really
like
like it didn't really like give us an alternative system. So
Right.
in that sense, I can say like, yeah, like this is why I kind of believe like, yeah, Bitcoin and Caspa will coexist, because Bitcoin
Yeah.
could just be part of our legacy system, did not really give us an alternative. It failed to give us a real alternative. And the fight is still on to actually get us like to a better system where, because I think really what it is just trying to manage to get all merchants online and everywhere to be able to just have an option to accept crypto. Like
I think that makes sense.
that's
Yeah.
mainly like the main barrier that's preventing us from really getting to that point. And but the reason why I believe we haven't gotten to that point is because we've never had a system as pure as Caspa, that's as secure,
Right.
that's a proof of work system. Because
Yeah.
I think I think for anything to actually be digital cash, it needs to be proof of work. That's just like
Yeah.
that's just like a fact for me. Like I don't think you can ever compete with the financial, or like being a replacement of fiat, if you're not proof of work. And so
I completely agree.
we just I don't know. I just feel like it's hard to predict these things or even say how the future will be, because humanity has just never had something like this with proof of work. And so there's practically no ceiling with it. I mean, because if you think about it, like Caspa can enable everything that like Ethereum world, Solana world can do, Caspa could eventually adopt. And I mean, just imagine, even if we didn't get custodians or merchants accepting crypto, they still accepting fiat. But with Caspa, I could literally just instantly convert my Caspa all on the network into fiat, because I do believe we're gonna move to like a stable coin world. Like our banks are gonna start accepting stable coins, and I could see a future where like you go to a restaurant and the QR code is gonna be USDT, USDC to pay. Now imagine, okay, if that is the kind of world we're in, imagine if we had Caspa where, hey, we didn't get these merchants to accept Caspa directly, but on Caspa I can just convert my Caspa instantly into fiat, pay USDC, USDT, and still remain on the Caspa network the whole time, supporting the network. Like that right there, that's a huge use case for Caspa. And that's something that like Bitcoin could never really do, because
Right.
everything that the layer two that you move on the layer two would not be supporting the network. Whereas in Caspa, the layer two, even if you do have layer twos in Caspa, they actually could support the layer one. So
Right. I, yeah, no, I completely get that. I guess a big part is, I mean, two parts. There's the Gresham's law. I mean, saying bad money drives out the good, right? That's the reason why Bitcoin maxis, including myself, like I don't really spend my Bitcoin because I'd rather just spend the fiat that's printed out at thin air. But
mhm,
another part is taxes. Every time I spend, I gotta pay taxes, right? And so if the tax bill or whatever happens with crypto tax, if they make it de minimis or whatever, to not pay, I could see a significantly higher adoption rate. And again, we're so early in the entire crypto space, and that's what kind of blows my mind when Bitcoin maxis are like Bitcoin one. I'm like, what do you mean? It's
yeah,
like 2 to 3, 4% adoption, maybe best case scenario, and most of those people don't even understand Bitcoin.
yeah,
It's like there's 96% of the world that literally has no Bitcoin exposure. So Bitcoin is winning, but I don't think it's won. And I think that's where it creates that insane opportunity for Caspa, especially when we talk about smart contracts or where you're talking about rails for USDT or USDC. So I could see a lot more people adopting almost a Caspa standard because it does what Bitcoin is supposed to a lot better. It's a lot more volatile, again, because it's so small. But over, I'm thinking 10, 20, 30 years, which is going to, I guess, be dominant. And I could see them both coexisting at least during our lifetimes. I think there's going to get to a point where one of them is going to have too much of a pain point. Maybe Bitcoin, where people are like, hey, this is going right back to the same system we were in, like what you're talking about. That may happen, or there could be enough regulation to make sure that does not happen. But again, regulations can change, right? And
exactly, yeah,
so I think that's the biggest point there. It's like just because it hasn't happened doesn't mean it can't. But then what's to make Caspa not do the same thing? I mean, let's say I don't want to hold my Caspa, I give it to a custodian. What's to make sure that they also don't rehypothecate it or fractional reserve banking with that?
Well, I mean, I think because the system is so pure, it exposes those fraudsters, and then they eventually collapse. Like we've seen with FTX, all these exchanges,
Right.
because the system itself cannot be manipulated. Like these people who are gonna try to use the system in that kind of way, they get exposed, and then eventually they fall. So it kind of like the system, it's kind of built in a way like it will correct itself, and then
Yeah.
and then Caspa can go on. Like I don't doubt one day we're gonna have an exchange. I mean, we actually already like Caspa already had an exchange actually that was hoarding Caspa, and they just stopped letting people withdraw their Caspa from it. And I think they had like a couple million Caspa. Still to this
Ah,
day, I don't even know like what's going on with that exchange. It's called Trade Ogre or something like that. It's some sketchy exchange, but they
yeah.
hoarded Caspa, and no one can get their Caspa out of it. So like, and I think the more that happens, people are gonna be taught like the importance of self custody. And I'm just thinking like more future minded. Like I really see a future where like our children in schools are being taught the basics of crypto, and they're gonna just be taught you always self custody. And in that kind of world, that's how we're starting to see people value self custody more and more and more. Right now, it's not that high, but in honesty, I mean, like the incentives aren't built there to be that high when the system is so slow, in my opinion. Because it can't scale, you're not incentivized to use it, and you're not incentivized to self custody it, because of those fears of it taking so long or stuff like that. So I don't know. I just think
Right.
it's
I
hard
mean,
to
I'm thinking like
predict. It's
even
it's
when
hard to know
like
like
when
exactly where we'll go, because like the cat's out the bag. Caspa is existing
yeah.
now. There's a proof of work system out there that can maintain your self sovereignty, is working at internet speeds. We've never had that before. The ceiling is kind of like not there. There's no ceiling to what this can allow humanity to tap into. So there's going to be solutions that we're not even thinking of that are going to open up because of Caspa, I believe.
Got it. I'm gonna make a comment similar to what Rajat said. Let's say hypothetically, Caspa does not replace Bitcoin as money. What other use cases do you see? I know you're saying smart contracts can compete against Ethereum. It could be a payment rail for USDC or T. I can make a strong case for that, but do you think during our lifetimes, Caspa will replace Bitcoin if people don't value sovereignty and people are okay using Lightning because it works and they keep most of their money in self storage? It's going to be difficult to transition with enough. I guess when hyper Bitcoinization happens, it's going to be very difficult to go from base layer to layer two for a lot of people who are just getting into it because the fees are going to be way too high. But if they just get paid in Lightning, they hold their money in Lightning, maybe Lightning or some layer two that's actually a little bit more secure than Lightning. Is that truly going to be an issue strong enough for Caspa to come and replace the entire Bitcoin network?
Um, I think, well, I've always still been on the fence of kind of like how this is going to play out, how the positioning. Um, Caspa fundamentally lets you do much more than any other proof of work network. So like looking at it just like on a fundamental, like on paper, Caspa allows you to have a lot more use cases than Bitcoin does. And so I don't see why man won't naturally flock to something that's much more convenient and gives them much more freedom, because having more use cases is more freedom. You're versatile. If you don't want to use it as money, you don't have to. If you want to use it as a way to create JPEGs or create a token, or to just hold your stable coins and earn a APY while you lock your Caspa up, or it's so versatile. I think something like that in the long run, especially because these are proof of work systems, I mean, it's gonna, if Bitcoin remains in its current state, I just see it exposing itself that, hey, this system's not sustainable if it's not being used enough. Like I don't see why Bitcoin's gonna get used more, and if it's remaining in its current state, because once you go to Lightning, the base layer isn't being used more, and that's just my main problem. So if there was some kind of replacement thing, I think it would take a very long time. I think it can happen in our lifetimes, but
Yeah.
it would still take at least a decade, I would say, because I think Bitcoin still has 10, 15 years before the security budget becomes a bigger issue. And currently right now, I don't see any solutions other than doing something that would actually like hurt its fundamental properties, which is like a hard fork. And that, like, largely in the Bitcoin community, that's pushed that if you have hard forks, that's bad, which
Yeah.
they're only bad if they're contentious. I don't know. It's just the Bitcoin religion, I think, is something that's very bad for Bitcoin, because it's
I mean, I was a part of it, so I get
yeah,
it.
like
And
it's
I'm
just,
looking
I don't
back
know,
at it,
like
I'm like, how?
long term, I just don't see it being sustainable. And
Yeah.
even if it is, it's still not offering me what I'm seeking, and I think what everyone else is seeking, which is a alternative to our fiat system, an actual real alternative that I can literally have fiat become a choice in my life, and I can completely live on a different standard. And I just don't think Bitcoin is built in a way to actually continue that fight, to give us that kind of future. And I think
Interesting.
Caspa's kind of like continuing that. Um, and people just haven't realized it yet. They're it's still trying to gain momentum, but I'm younger, so like my risk tolerance is much higher. I'm more able and willing to possibly be wrong, but at the end of the day, like I don't want to go out without a fight. That's kind of how I'm
Yeah.
thinking. Like I want to, I really think Caspa can really replace fiat in our daily lives. Um,
Yeah.
and so far, I mean, Caspa is completely unique in so many different ways to a lot of other cryptos. I mean, its volatility is actually less than Bitcoin. I mean, it's never dropped
Hmm.
more than 70%. It's 70, 75%, maybe 80, but Bitcoin has had 80+% drops. Caspa hasn't
Yeah.
experienced that. Um, Caspa also had a full bear market where it was in its own bull run, which was
Hmm.
very unique, because a lot of people are saying like, oh, like Caspa's going to underperform this bull run and then the bear market's going to come and it's over. But it's like, what if we actually have an asset that's decoupled? Like it's actually doing its own thing, because there's so many bedrock holders that understand it, that are just going to stick around because they really want to be
Yeah.
here for the fight, and we can have an asset that's really just doing its own thing. um
Yeah.
I think convincing the masses would definitely be Caspa outperforming Bitcoin in terms of price. That's going to
Definitely.
obviously be the biggest convincing factor, and that's why I'm allocated more to Caspa, because I firmly believe it will outperform Bitcoin within the decade. um so that's kind of like my position there. But yeah, I mean, it's just a rabbit hole. I mean, like, and
Yeah.
I just truly think Caspa gives people more freedom. Like, don't wouldn't you want to support a system that offers that to people, more freedom, with your money, and more use cases? um I'm not restricted to just money. Caspa's not restricted to just being a money. It can
Yeah.
transfer communications, um securely, privately, fully encrypted. I mean, it's just the limits for Caspa is
A lot more than Bitcoin. Yeah.
yeah, like there's just like so many potential use cases that can come from Caspa. So um
Yeah.
I really think it has a good chance to 100% stay relevant for a long time, especially when I'm comparing Caspa to other proof of work systems that have come about. I mean, they're still kicking, and they're not presenting anything groundbreaking like Caspa is, but yet they still kicking around. So, that's just kind of how like I'm seeing the outlook for Caspa, and why personally for me I'm positioned more Caspa than Bitcoin. And yeah, I mean, I think I kind of want to get into like the ideologies in like the Bitcoin religion, I guess we can call it. Like, what are some of the things that you picked up on that like you knew that, like you always read that line and you were just like, yeah, like that's Bitcoin, but then you realized, wait a second, like that doesn't really make sense.
Right.
Those phrases that they always have don't actually make
Yeah.
sense when you think of them critically.
I think one good one is Bitcoin, not crypto. And when I was getting to Bitcoin, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. And everyone's like, oh, everything else is shitcoin. Because it's almost like, I don't know if you saw that story. It's like if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, it'll always think it's dumb. It's like, because the rest of the crypto industry is not necessarily meant to be money. Bitcoin wins as money. Right, minus the Kaspa part of it. But Bitcoin, out of the millions of cryptocurrencies, Bitcoin wins. But everyone's saying, oh, can Ethereum be Bitcoin? Can Solana be Bitcoin? It's like, no, they're not meant to be money.
Exactly.
They're meant for something completely different. That was something that took me a while to understand. I'm just like, okay, everything else is shitcoin because it's not going to be Bitcoin. It's not going to be money. But then I'm like, it's not meant to be money. And I think that was a really big, interesting viewpoint for me. There's a lot of people in the Bitcoin community that are like, hey, we're not just focusing on a number to go up. That could be a reason why they got into it. But as they went down the rabbit hole, they're like, no, we're part of this monetary revolution. And I strongly resonate with that. I see you do too, especially now you're using Caspa as that instead of Bitcoin. But we're all trying to help the world adopt sound money. But then when you start looking at other ecosystems, it's not going to be money. I think that was the biggest realization. I'm like, okay, cool. Bitcoin wins, or maybe Caspa can compete there too. But everything else still has its use case. It may have its use case. That's not money. We need to acknowledge that and focus on, okay, what are those use cases? And maybe there's something there we could build if that's where the world's going.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what I love about Caspa, because I always call it like Caspa is a cryptocurrency. It's not a crypto company. And that is what separates Caspa from like 99% of cryptos, is because they're all crypto companies. They have a company behind it, VCs, allocation to teams, founders, and all that kind of stuff, which completely destroys your decentralization, completely destroys your hope at actually being an alternative money. And because Caspa doesn't have those things, it could still be viewed as an alternative money. And so people are going to be incentivized to actually use Caspa as a store of value, as well as a medium of exchange. A lot of people in Caspa aren't just looking at it as a means to exit one day, like just sell it all and then live my life out in the fiat world. Like that's what separates Caspa, Bitcoin from like all these other cryptos, is that people actually view these things as something to like, you're exiting the fiat system and you're getting into this new system. So that's a fundamental thing for Caspa and Bitcoin, why I believe that they are going to be set apart from everything else over the long run. But yeah, I've one of the biggest things that I have a problem with is, in the Bitcoin world, they're trying to say Bitcoin is money, and I feel like they limit Bitcoin because to try to prove that it's money, they apply old ways of how money functioned and worked, and they try to force it and confine it onto Bitcoin. But this whole new money system is supposed to be brand new. So I don't understand why, like, the rules of the old systems, why are you forcing that into Bitcoin? So for example, one of the common lines that I always hear is money always scales in layers. And they use that as a justification to say why Lightning's okay. Or they would even say FedWire is 7 TPS and Bitcoin is 7 TPS, so that's okay. But I'm like, those things is what I really get confused about, because it's kind of like, so we want this to be a whole new monetary system, but yet we want it to be defined by old rules, which those old rules led to a monetary system that failed. Bitcoin, because gold you can kind of apply that to gold. Gold was considered money. Money always scales in layers. Gold scaled to fiat, and then we got our system, which is
Right.
centralized and corrupt. So it's like, why are we defining Bitcoin with that same rule that will literally lead to the same kind of outcome? That's kind of like,
I mean, if you think about it, before 2021, before Caspa even came on the scene, they had to have Bitcoin win because nothing else could be money. And so it's almost like propaganda in a way. Again, not through the government, but it's like, hey, if we say this over and over again, the masses will believe it, including people who, like me, who literally don't understand, who didn't understand Bitcoin. And so let me just learn from experts, quote unquote, and I'm going to believe what you say. It's like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Money scales and layers. Sure, it's not why question it because I really don't even understand the monetary system. And then you say that over and over again, people believe it and they just repeat it without thinking about it. And we don't ask why does it scale in layers, but I think it's okay because Bitcoin was the first and people needed it to succeed because we're trying to get on a new monetary system. So no matter what we say, it's like, how do we rally up the masses? Let's just say this. But I think I don't know if it's okay or not. That's not a philosophical debate. But I'm saying that now there's a new entrant in this space. Now we're able to think more critically. And it's like, does it actually need to?
yeah, yeah. That's the
If
big
it
thing with
wasn't for
Caspa. It's
Caspa,
like, hey,
yeah,
money doesn't have to scale in layers. I mean, we can, because this is technology at the end of the day, and technology always advances and gets better. I think we should shift with that kind of rule for digital money, that hey, technology always advances and gets better. Let's make sure that our digital money, our future money, is also keeping up with the times so that it can actually be something good for humanity. Because I just don't see, when I think like 10, 20 years down the road, I don't see the value in everything else being internet speed, and then our money is still slow. It's still not even
yeah.
internet speeds, and I can't see a future like that. Especially with me, I'm just very like future minded. I love new technology. I just see the younger generation that's coming right after me. It's just like, I feel like they're gonna adopt based on convenience, and
Yeah.
so and that's one
I'll
of the
tell you what,
things.
if Bitcoin and Caspa launched at the same time, Caspa would win hands down. Now, I'm just trying to be as critical as possible. I'm like, okay, Caspa's better. Bitcoin's winning. The pain isn't strong enough to necessarily switch because, first of all, most people aren't even using Bitcoin as money.
Hmm.
But in 10, 20, 30 years, when more people start using Bitcoin, uh, at that point, the pain could be strong enough to consider shifting. And so it's almost like we're making a derivative bet on Bitcoin not being able to do what it's meant to do. And that's what we're betting on Caspa.
Yeah, I do. I see you say like Caspa's like a hedge, and that's how I kind of view Caspa as well. Like it's a hedge to my understanding of Bitcoin, and where I feel like it's just gonna, the flaws are gonna expose itself, and people are gonna realize, oh, this system isn't really giving us what we thought it was giving us. And then I think that's where Caspa is gonna be able to step in and kind of present itself as like, this is the best alternative we have today. Um, and the amazing thing about Caspa is that it's creating new standards for proof of work, standards that are not defined by made up laws. Like, hard forks are always bad. You know, they're only bad if they're contentious, and I don't understand why anyone would be upset about making Caspa faster for us. That it just gives us more
Yeah.
freedom. So, um, yeah, I mean, it's a really interesting future to think about when we know Caspa exists, um, and Bitcoin's still around,
I
but
think it's
it's
only
just,
because we know Caspa exists.
yeah,
If we didn't know, I'd say, hey, Bitcoin only. It's.
yeah,
I
yeah,
think Bitcoin is good enough. I think it's a great technological advancement. But the only reason it makes me question it is because, hey, there's something literally better. If this didn't exist, I mean, I literally didn't exist for me until a month ago. So that's why I was a huge Bitcoin maxi. I'm like, hey, yeah, Bitcoin scales in layers. Okay. Layer two, yeah, I'm able to send money. It's fine. I store my wallet in a cold storage. It's fine. But then it's like, hey, you actually there's something better. And I think that's where the paradigm shift happens. And I see a lot more Bitcoiners starting to allocate at least a small portion of Caspa, maybe as
Hmm.
a hedge, or maybe they're like, hey, this is actually better. They're not converting 100%. I don't plan to ever convert. I mean, first, there's a tax issue of it, but
Right.
it's just like I still believe in Bitcoin, at least for the next few decades. At that time, I don't know, there might be something better than Caspa too. It's like the thing is, we need to be open minded, continue seeing evolution, and like where are the pain points, and do you believe it's a strong enough pain point for someone to switch, or at least allocate enough to? Because it's not that hard to allocate. Like I could literally just buy more Caspa. I don't have to sell my Bitcoin. I think it's an easy enough, like no friction to switch. It's not like, oh, I have to sell a house, wait 60 days, and then it's not a whole issue. It's like, cool, I got paid. Let me just put a couple $1,000s in a
Into
Caspa.
Caspa. Yeah, that's how I
Right.
kind of see like Caspa being in its very early stages is like more and more people that are Bitcoiners are just gonna have like Caspa as like that little hedge, like 20%. Right now it'll probably be like 5%, very low, but eventually it will just be like an 80-20 Caspa, and and in a sense, I think in that time it's because people are realizing, oh snap, Caspa can actually outperform Bitcoin, because it is so much smaller. So people are gonna want that exposure. And I think, I don't know, it's just become like a self-fulfilling prophecy of just like people just realizing that slowly over time. I mean, like how many Bitcoiners have you seen like actually kind of allocate a little bit of their money into Caspa now?
I'd say about 15 to 20 personally, that have DM'd me or told me in real life. I mean, I have a handful of friends in real life that allocated Caspa. A handful of people DM me. They're like, hey, it's because of you. I did this. And so I'd say in the 15 to 20 range.
Yeah, yeah. And I think it's just a testament that like if if you do your due diligence, like I think you made a post of someone saying like I just can't find anything wrong. And
Yeah.
that was my like problem too when I started my deep dive. Like I purposely look for, like I have videos, entitled like Risky Caspa, like to talk about
Yeah.
risk that I see. But when I look at the risk and I like the risk to reward
It's-
is completely like just the risk is, to me, the biggest risk is it just doesn't catch on.
yeah.
And it's
I
like,
think the,
yeah, I mean
no,
every
100.
asset has that risk. What if Bitcoin doesn't continue catching on?
Yeah.
That's
But there's enough Bitcoiners who have this mentality. It's like, I'm going to keep buying Bitcoin every day, including me. Like, I still buy Bitcoin every single day. I use Strike. I DCA every day, regardless of the
mhm,
price. And it's not just me, but there's literally, I have no idea how many Bitcoiners are, but there's a lot of people who continue DCAing, which
yeah.
means there's going to be a price floor. And now we have Sailor, we have institutions. So I don't see Bitcoin ever crashing unless there's a major issue with the
Right.
network or something. And even then, like I don't know the technological aspect of it. So what you're saying is right with Caspa. I don't see anything wrong with the technology, but I think the biggest risk is what if there isn't a big enough pain point for Bitcoiners to switch to Caspa for the monetary aspect of it. There might still be a lot of demand from smart contract or payment rail aspect of it, but I don't know if there's necessarily enough pain points for Bitcoin users to switch to Caspa at this point,
Hmm.
but maybe in 5, 10, 15 years, there might be.
I think also with Caspa though, because it's so versatile, so much faster, I think Caspa is actually allowing the rest of the world to get into crypto. Because I kid you not, I've been able to onboard people who have never been in crypto because of
Hmm.
Caspa. Like my father. Like my father is one who heard about Bitcoin, didn't do anything, kind of just like, oh yeah, get into it. Oh no, didn't get into it. And then now I'm trying to teach him like the ethos of Bitcoin, ethos of Caspa, all this. And it's because of Caspa he actually now gets it and values, oh, self-sovereign sound money. Whereas before with Bitcoin, a lot of people were just like, I missed it and I'm kind of just going to ignore crypto as a whole. But I don't know. I think like that's the thing. Like Caspa's goal isn't just, oh, let's try to convince Bitcoiners. I think Caspa is literally built to like convince the rest of the world that don't want to get
Yeah.
in because of the how versatile Caspa is, because of how advanced it is, because it's similar to what everyone's used to. I click a link, I get my website, and then with Caspa, it's, hey, yeah, you want Caspa, you send Caspa, you get it right away. And people are like, oh, it's just like kind of like adopting some other technology that works according to how everything else works. So it's just easier to onboard people. Um, so that's the thing. I
So I
mean,
made a
like,
post about this specifically. It's like, is it easier to convert Bitcoin or no coiners to Bitcoiners or Bitcoiners into Caspians or no coiners into
no,
Caspians? And so
that's an
it's so
interesting
fast.
question. I really feel like
Right.
no coiners into Caspa is way easier. Because
Yeah,
if you're a no coiner, you have no biases, right?
that's true.
And you just say, you say, here's Caspa, look at this, and they're just like, I know Bitcoin exists, like, why would I do Caspa? You could literally just put two phones next to each other. All right, send Bitcoin, send Caspa. Which one?
Ha.
A person is gonna like naturally go to what is convenient, and that's what I'm seeing. Like, I'm just thinking a little bit longer term here. Like, most people don't have these biases of Bitcoin. Most people don't hang out on X. I mean, it's
Yeah,
an echo
that's
chamber.
true.
At the end of the day, it's an echo
100%.
chamber. My father does not hang out on X, like, at all.
Yeah.
Like, there's so many things that happen with Caspa on X, like some drama or stuff like this, and people are just like, "Oh my goodness, you're hurting the Caspa price." And I'm like, you don't realize how many people don't even look at X a single bit, and they
Yeah.
think Caspa is the future, and they're just gonna keep DCAing. They don't care.
Yeah.
We're in our echo chambers here, and I just feel like onboarding a no coiner is way easier for Caspa. I mean, especially if you're going
So
to do
we
a
definitely tell them
comparison.
about their risks just because they guarantee they haven't studied Austrian economics or anything about sound
Right.
money. They don't know any of that. They're just like, hey, okay, I trust you. And so let me put in a little bit. But they're not like, you have to make sure you let them know, hey, there's going to be a lot of volatility. Just plan to hold for the next few
Right.
decades. Don't even think about selling.
Hmm.
But I encourage you to study now they have exposure. Now look into this. Read these Bitcoin books.
Right.
And then you could understand Bitcoin's like, huh, why is Caspa superior? So it's
And
almost
not only
like,
that, encourage people to actually like use Caspa, because
yeah,
since it's faster, the burden of like trying to teach someone like, hey, here's how you can actually use this in your daily life. Do you have a barber? Hey, offer him Caspa, and it's quick, it's easy, it's fast. There's no more. And then that's I don't know. I just feel like people, there's just so much more incentive to actually onboard someone to Caspa and then even teach them how to use it. I mean, I had an example of someone who was having issues with trying to move money from Dubai to over here. And he asked me, he's like, "Hey, I know there's this crypto world, like there's Bitcoin. Could I actually use Bitcoin to kind of like move the money that my buddy has in Dubai to me over here, so I don't have to go through banks because they've been giving us hard times?" And I know about Caspa. I felt so, it just felt weird to me to sit there and explain to them Bitcoin, and
yeah,
knowing how much slower it's going to be, knowing that
right.
they're going to be, they're trying to send like maybe $20,000 to each other, knowing the fear of like them texting me, hey, it's not here yet, it's not here. Like, it just made no sense for me to teach them about Bitcoin to try to help them. Instead, it was just like, hey, uh get a Caspian wallet, tell this person to go buy Caspa on an exchange and send it to your wallet, like, and it's going to be a much better experience, and you're going to get your money very quickly. Like that's just how I'm seeing, like, man is going to naturally adapt to convenience, and that's what I'm seeing with Caspa.
It's amazing. So why do I don't know whether it's maybe I misinterpreted it, but I see people saying, oh, Caspa and Bitcoin are not competitors, they're gonna coexist. I view this as a direct competition. So why do Caspians say that? Is it just so Bitcoiners don't feel threatened, or is it because of misinformation?
Yeah, this has been an interesting topic because I'm glad people are bringing this up. I had a space recently where someone kind of brought this up and was just like, "Hey, like, I keep seeing Caspian say like we're on the same team, like we're this," and he was kind of just trying to put out there like, it seems like we're kind of scared, like we're scared to kind of like stand on business and like kind of say like we're better in these aspects, which I actually agree with. And when it comes to the coexisting thing, when I explain the coexisting thing, me, it's just personal. The coexisting is just is just the fact that just because Caspa exists, Bitcoin isn't going to disappear tonight. That's
Yeah.
just how I feel. So I'm like, these things are going to coexist for a while. There's going to
Just
be
like
a
fiat
Bitcoin.
hasn't disappeared just because
Yeah,
Bitcoin's here.
just because like the US dollar is dominant doesn't mean the euros disappear. In
Right.
fact, euros right now are like outperforming the US dollar. Like they're better right now. So I'm in the real world, we see that even something that's a dominant currency is being outperformed by another currency, and they still exist. They still coexist with each other. That's more so what I'm standing for. That's like they're just gonna exist as two different things, and their values are gonna go up and down. One's not just gonna drop to zero because the other exists. Like that's not realistic. Now when it comes to like the same team, I would say the only same team that we're on is if you value self-sovereignty and being fully self-sovereign with sound money, we're on that same team. But in reality, we're not on the same team. If you're a Bitcoiner only and I'm a Caspa guy, we're not.
Yeah.
We're fundamentally competing with each other, and we firmly believe that we have a better sound money. That's my opinion. I believe Caspa is a better sound money because my self-sovereignty can remain intact at all times. And in Bitcoin, I don't really get that. You know, I also don't have any incentive to use my Bitcoin because it's so much slower. I have to pay fees, and you know, like right now with Caspa, I actually use my Caspa because I'm more than willing to funnel my fiat through Caspa to buy things. That's typically how I live on Caspa right now is I buy the item that I need at the moment of time. I just funnel it through Caspa and buy a gift card or something like that to buy what I need. If I was doing that with Bitcoin, I would have to wait an hour maybe for a confirmation. I'm already paying a fee. If I buy a gift card with Caspa, I already have to pay a fee for that merchant that's giving me the gift card because they got to make a profit. So imagine I'm paying that like 50-cent fee for the merchant, but then with Bitcoin, I'm paying another 50 cent to $3, $4 fee. It just makes, okay, so Bitcoin, to me, it's just like Bitcoin's like, no, I just keep it in my cold storage. I don't use it. I don't touch it. I don't have any incentives to use it because it's so much slower. So then this is what I think drives the Caspa adoption and the Caspa use cases because it's just so much easier. I don't have to go. I don't have that same burden. I know that if I'm using Caspa, the only fee I'm mainly paying is the merchant's fee, not the network fee, because it's so much faster, and it can handle a whole lot more of the masses, and it can even adapt. That's the biggest thing too. That Caspa can adapt as much as the adoption comes, and adoption is slower than hardware advancing. Like adoptions, like when I was in my debate, I was getting pushed on like 8 billion people come right now. How is it gonna work? It's not gonna work.
It's not gonna happen for Bitcoin either.
Exactly, and I'm like, I can just turn around that argument and say they come to Bitcoin right now. Bitcoin will literally fumble. Like it wouldn't work. We know this, but the difference is one of these networks is adapting to handle the masses. Yeah. The other is not. And so that's like the main difference.
So I have a question on this. It's like a few months back, I was thinking about, okay, how do I, because I live on like kind of on the outsides of downtown here, and there's a bunch of restaurants here. And I was thinking like, wow, again, before I even knew about Caspa, I'm like, I would love for every single one of these restaurants to get Lightning. And so I could just, create a small circular Bitcoin economy. That was literally my goal. And I was looking at, okay, how do restaurants onboard Lightning? I'm like, okay, you got to set up these channels and liquidity management. I'm like, okay, how do I charge for that? Do I manage the liquidity for them? I'm like, no, it's too much for me. I don't have the technical expertise for this at all. So I dropped that idea. But with Caspa, is there a payment or is there a way for businesses to receive money, or do they just need to use a Tangem Wallet or some sort of other wallet, or is there like an actual POS?
So there is
point of sale system.
It is up to the merchant. I mean, like this. I'm actually gonna make a video about this. How I'm gonna describe as layer 2s on Bitcoin do not compete with Caspa, because, I mean, like you were just explaining how much of a burden it is to be like, I know I can't tell them to accept base layer Bitcoin because they're going to be like, this is
Yeah.
slow. It's not going to work.
Right.
But I want to try Lightning. But then you were also thinking, oh, but you know, you got to do the nodes and all this kind of stuff. Whereas in Caspa, hey, download this app, print out your QR code, and put it on the table.
That's it.
That's it.
Yeah.
And it can always be like that. That
Yeah.
that right there just sets the difference right there between Bitcoin and Caspa.
To crop this out, create a video right there.
Yeah, that right there is what I'm really seeing. Like Caspa's just gonna take over in peer-to-peer payments because it's just like it's just less of a burden to try to onboard a merchant and be like it's easy. But there is a project out there. I think it's called Casway, and it's like a terminal. Like it's a website. It could be a website on like an iPad, and it's a terminal that can actually like process transactions and everything, keep receipts and all that kind of stuff. So there's already people out there that are making like point of sale terminals so that Caspa can be accepted. And it's not, you wouldn't need a node. You could just use the public node. Someone else who's running a node, you just connect to the public node. So the merchant would even need to create their own node. Now, maybe if the merchant was more interested in like making sure that their payment terminal is always functioning, then you could say like, hey, run your own node, and connect to it, which running a Caspa node is very, very easy and lightweight, which is amazing. So it really will give a merchant full self-sovereignty of their payment terminal. They're not relying on anyone else. And, you know, the future idea too is the fact that if Caspa can achieve 100 blocks per second, a business or a merchant could essentially get 1% of the hash rate and like basically confirm their transactions at 1 block per second, pretty much. So like at 1 block per second speeds. So it just gives more like self-sovereignty and decentralization with the faster block rate. The more blocks there are, the better it is for decentralization. You know, like back here, so you can see I'm solo mining, and on Bitcoin I can't solo mine. Like it's considered lottery mining on Bitcoin. If you try to solo mine, because you wouldn't find a block. You'll be lucky. But on Caspa, I can just solo mine. I'm not relying on a pool. I don't have to pay any fees, and I don't have to wait for a payout to be hit to get paid. I find a block, I get my Caspa right away. So
yeah, so
those are just the things about Caspa.
On that,
it gives more freedom.
Yeah. No, I appreciate that. When it comes to adoption, especially with restaurants or whatnot, that's my go-to clientele for whatever reason, because I know they're getting hit with 3.5% credit card fees, and I feel terrible for them. So if we go to them and say, hey, if you accept Caspa, you could instantly convert to USDT.
And that's another thing. Stablecoin adoption with Caspa you could do all of that like on the Caspa network. You can accept Caspa, instantly convert it into USDT, and you're all doing network layer 1 transactions to do all those kind of things.
Right, and they save 3% in credit card fees, and it's like, hey, I would come here, set this up for free or a small minimal fee or whatever, and it's like you're able to accept Bitcoin or accept Caspa, and it settles into a stable coin, so you literally don't have any price fluctuations, and you save a ton in credit card fees. Let's get started. It's like, I think that is going back to the question. Yeah, it's actually a lot easier to go from no coiner to Caspian, because it's like they just want to save fees. It's like, what is the pain point? They don't want to pay that much in credit card fees. They still just want to focus on their business. Mm-hmm. And then even, I mean, I don't know, like, what are your thoughts on Bitcoin being, I guess, digital gold? It's like, what if they convert to Bitcoin? Is that a good thing, bad thing, or is it better just for them keeping stable coins?
You know, I mean, if they just convert it, you know, they're receiving Caspa and then they just said, I just want to convert Bitcoin to digital gold. I mean, it's a good thing for Bitcoin, because if the price doubles every 4 years, then it can remain sustainable. The network could remain more sustainable because the mining revenue gets cut in half every 4 years. So as long as Bitcoin's doubling every 4 years, then yeah, they never really have to worry about people using the network. They can just keep having people hoard it. But then again, I still feel like the pain point is going to eventually come. I don't think Bitcoin will double every 4 years consistently, and I just don't think that's sustainable. Even though, I mean, like the Sailor claims, like, yeah, it's going to be
40% ARR. Yeah.
$10 million one day,
29%. Yeah.
$100 million Bitcoin, all this kind of stuff, in like 20 years or something. And it's just like, I don't know. To me, it just seems like a marketing pitch. It does not seem realistic. I mean, the whole idea of, I mean, even just pushing this idea that like, they always say like, oh, once people figure out that like home real estate is a bad store of value, people are going to just sell all their homes and just put it into Bitcoin. I'm just like, that sounds like a centralized world to me. Who are we going to sell these homes to? Number one, are we going to sell them to the elites? Are we all just going to be renting now? When you critically think about the futures they propose, that everyone's just going to say, screw real estate, I'm going to just rent. It's like, okay, but now we're literally giving like homes, things that we need to live in, to the elites now. They're going to buy it all, right? Is that really what's happening? So then I'm seeing how, in a way, Bitcoin is a Trojan horse to kind of get us stuck in the same system. You see that's like another aspect of it that I see when I'm viewing it. This whole HODL mentality and just this like convert everything into Bitcoin, and it's just like, okay, you'll own nothing and you'll be happy. Like, is that really what it kind of ends up being? If everything the only thing we really own is Bitcoin, and everything else is like, I don't want to own it. I don't want to own. I don't know. I think.
But I'll be honest, I went down that rabbit hole myself, and for some reason I felt at peace with it. Because again, coming from real estate, I just yesterday, I haven't publicly announced it, but I signed the documents to sell my second house, my last house, and closings next week. So I signed everything, and because my tenants were just trash, and I'm like, okay, do I have to deal with being a landlord, dealing with all this? Like my rate, like I lost money the last year renting it out.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, if I just held Bitcoin instead, I would have been significantly better. And so I'm under the impression, because now I'm renting here in Seattle, life is phenomenal. Something breaks, cool, I don't have to deal with it.
Right.
And it's being on the flip side is so nice. And now I have that freedom, but it's like, great, I have Bitcoin. It's going to appreciate faster than real estate, most likely, in my opinion. Now I have that flexibility to go anywhere, rent for 2 to 3 years, wherever I want to be, move if I want to. Like, I don't see myself ever buying a house, because I think when it comes to sovereignty, I value flexibility too. And I'm realizing that about myself. That's my own personal belief. Mm-hmm. Because I bought houses because I had the intention to stay in Charlotte, North Carolina. That's where I was living. But for whatever, life brought me out here to Seattle. But now it's like, I like that freedom, which I didn't realize I liked until I got into Bitcoin. Mm-hmm. But yeah, you're absolutely right. It's just because it appreciates faster, you could take a little bit of that to fund your lifestyle as you need. But what you're talking about, Caspa, could we go back to that transitioning to USDT, that conversion? Is that out right now, or is that something that's being built?
It's being built out still at the moment.
So this is the smart contracts that you're talking about,
right? It
would be different.
It would be working with smart contracts on a layer 2. Now, Kaspa has the ability to actually have stablecoins on the layer 1. It does, because of inscriptions, which are, I don't know if you've heard that like Kaspa already has like KRC20 tokens, and NFTs. That's all on the base layer. And so like, and they've already made ways to integrate stablecoins on, like it could work on the base layer, because a stablecoin needs to be regulated, it needs to be centralized. Everyone should know this. You have to be able to whitelist addresses. Like a stablecoin, if you're USDT, your Tether, or Circle, you need to be allowed to be able to just censor a certain address from like using the stablecoin. That's just like the legal way of how stablecoins have to work. And so Kaspa's actually able to do that on the layer 1. So there is a potential scenario where stablecoins could actually just be fully native on Kaspa, and then you could just have like swaps built in within the Kaspa layer 1, and now you're definitely not moving to another layer at all. You're just staying on Kaspa, instantly converting into USDT or USDC, whatever, and then you could just keep that stablecoin on the Kaspa network. I mean, a lot of people like to keep those stablecoins because they do offer a rate of return. I know a lot of people who just like they understand the risk of exchanges, but they still hold stablecoins because it gives you a higher yield, and they just hold it on an
Yeah.
exchange that's like well trusted. So imagine like you can kind of do that, but it's just all on a network. It's all on Caspa. Like you just kind of instantly convert Caspa into a stable coin. You're still staying on the network, and then you're able to earn a yield if like you provide liquidity for the swaps with your stable coin. You know, you kind of have Caspa, and you're just providing liquidity basically, and you can earn a yield that way. But your money is still remaining in a stable coin. So I think there's just so many different approaches to it, but it is all being built out, and we kind of just got to wait to see how exactly that's all going to work. But yeah, I
Because I
think
see a massive value add there for society, specifically like the coffee shop or
this is why I say that I
restaurant.
believe Caspa, the main market Caspa really needs to attack is the stablecoin market. This is clearly
Yeah.
something that America is adopting, forming regulation for. I firmly believe we're going to start seeing stablecoin acceptance within our banks. So it'll be even easier to cash out of crypto. I mean, imagine if Caspa had stablecoin support on the network. You can instantly swap into a stablecoin and send that stablecoin to your bank. And now you're not waiting any kind of days. Like it's just all instant moving around. And that's all
Yeah.
layer one transactions helping the Caspa network. I mean, it's opening up so many doors. I already see the network effects of stablecoins. I always mention this with Bitcoiners, like, hey, Jack Mallers with the Strike app. You said you're using Strike. He adopted the Tron
Yeah.
network to
Right.
enable USDT. You know, if Jack Mallers is a very intelligent individual, I believe he is, and he values self-sovereignty, he values proof of work, I don't see why game theory won't have him one day moving to the Caspa network
I
to
was literally
support
just thinking, like, what if
stablecoins.
the Caspa, like, we just create a strike, but for Caspa
I have
directly
had that
compete?
thought for the longest time, and I definitely I know some people that possibly could help kind of like bring that to life.
Yeah.
Because definitely if that existed, that would really help
I'd
Caspa.
use that. I would DCA completely into that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's all in one. I mean, yeah, Caspa only, maybe with a little bit of USDT or some other stable coins.
Hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I could make a huge
So,
case for that.
people always just talk about like, oh, like Caspa is like this huge hill to climb and for adoption or whatever, but I'm like, if you do the research, like the data's there. Is like, yes, this is like speculating, but I mean, like the data's there to support that this could happen in a high likelihood of all this kind of adoption, different avenues of way to have Caspa adopted could happen, which just gives me more reason that Caspa is built for longevity. It's not built for just like a pump and dump, one time kind of thing.
Yeah.
Like it's really just like a whole new world of proof of work, and that's the main thing. This is all on proof of work, and I don't think people like value that like a proof of work system is no longer limited, guys. Like we have a proof of work system that can really reshape the monetary system in a way, because it's internet speed and it's fast and it can adapt. So yeah, I mean, really, I think those are the markets that Casper really needs to tap into, just the stablecoin market and peer-to-peer transactions, you just using it. And I think over time, with the education, people are eventually going to come around to it. I don't think ignoring Caspa is not going to make it go away. It's just
I'm
going to
with
get
you.
the ignorance is actually kind of funny. It actually drives people to look into it more.
Yeah.
These Bitcoiners who are now like using Caspa as like a way to like engagement farm, I'm just like,
Engagement farm.
you
Yeah.
are literally creating Caspa's network effect as we speak. Like, it's I don't know, it's becoming like a self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, we'll see what
Yeah. I
happens,
mean, if it
but
wasn't a threat, they wouldn't be talking about it. They're like, oh, it's a shitcoin.
100%.
Let's
I
just
don't
move
see
on.
any
But
kind of conversations of like Litecoin in this depth. I don't see them making a space to have like a Litecoiner come on or a Bitcoin
or
Cash guy come on.
Murano. Yeah.
Like, it doesn't happen. But with Caspa, it does happen because it just presents things that are things you can't really ignore. Like, it's just too
Yeah.
difficult to ignore.
Amazing. Do we have any questions in the comments or anything there?
Yeah. If anyone has any questions, you can kind of leave them up. We're about done here to wrap up, but we have 173 people watching, which is
Oh
really
wow.
cool. It's reached 700 views. So a lot of people
Oh, that's
in
pretty
here
cool.
watching and interested in these conversations. I think a lot of people are looking forward for you to make your own videos on your channel, um, so that we can
The
kind
thing
of
is, I don't have the
get your
technical background
perspectives.
to
You
talk
don't
about
need
it, but I
you
think
don't need it, but I think your perspectives though, because you have the Bitcoin ideology behind things,
yeah.
it just gives a different perspective, and I think people will value that and see like, because a lot of people just think that like Bitcoiners will never get into Caspa or adopt Caspa, but like clearly that's just like not the case. That's not true.
Oh,
Um, so, but yeah, if anyone has any questions, leave them in the chat and I will go ahead and announce them. But yeah, this was a really great talk. I think we covered a lot of
yeah.
different.
No, I learned a lot. It made me more bullish talking about I think stable coins is probably the spot I need to spend some time learning about because I mean, again, I barely started using stablecoins. I use maybe I'm a complete noob, but I'm using the Ethereum network, so I don't even know
And
whether it's good or bad. But I'm
yeah,
just like, all right, whatever. Let's just use it. So
yeah, that's the main thing. And like I'm just realizing like I'm forced to use stablecoins because like I as a influencer, you receive payments from wallets and stuff like that, and they provide me, they pay me in stablecoins, and I'm just like,
yeah,
okay, so clearly stablecoins are not going away. The network effect for those are going to be is huge. Um, and wouldn't it be awesome if this was on the Caspa network instead? Because I'm tired of like high fees using Tron network and also supporting a network that does not support any of my
or the base
values
layer. Yeah,
of what I
right.
actually value cryptocurrency should be. Um, so and I also I just think like these other people who are paying people out in stablecoins are going to realize that Caspa is like the best network to do these things on. Like, why would you do it on these other networks anymore when you could just do it on Caspa? It just prevents so many um, better
Yeah,
outcomes, especially with faster block rate. I mean, like MEV resistance is like a huge thing within crypto, especially people who are dealing with like layer twos and swapping and stuff like that. People lose money because of just the fact that other networks are slow. Their blocks are slower, so it's easier to front run a transaction that's going to happen in the future because you can see it coming. With Caspa, that kind of is you're already resistant to MEV at the base layer, at the protocol level. You're not having to
yeah.
add other measures to try to be resistant to that. And so that's another huge incentive for these providers that are just like, I can adopt a network that is already MEV resistant at its protocol level. And then if I want more resistance, I can look into that. But there's just so many
I'm
uh like reasons for why Caspa would just be adopted over other things, I believe.
got it. Do you think so have you heard of bitcoinmap.com or like btcmap.com or something like that?
Is it like a merchant
It,
map?
yeah, it's literally a map that says, "Hey, here are all the places that Lightning or Bitcoin's accepted."
Caspa
Is there
has
something
that.
like that for Caspa? It does have it.
Yes.
Is
Caspa
there some
does.
sort of like leaderboard or some sort of like competition to see who can onboard the most? I feel like game
That would
theory
be
incentivization would
yeah.
be a cool way to gain adoption. It's like, hey, I onboarded 13 this month or whatever. And it's like, I'm just thinking like for a community aspect, people like competitions. It's
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
hey, let's do a 30-day challenge. Let's see how many we can onboard.
I think that's a
And
great idea and definitely something that I can get behind to try to uh,
yeah,
pitch to set up, and we can even do like a reward in Caspa, depending who wins the
yeah.
month on onboarding people. But yeah, I really think that would be cool. I
Especially with stable coins. I mean, if I think we can make the case that you save credit card fees, it
mhm,
switches to stable coin where you're earning 4% or something. They'd be like, yeah, why would I not? It's like I save money and I earn. Yeah, sure, let's do this.
yeah, yeah. Um, by the way, I just want to put this in the video because I think it would be cool. Do you have the Caspian wallet on your phone?
I do. All right,
You do.
let's
I
let's
just
do
I just
this.
want to like kind of just show like the speed of Caspa, so people can actually see it. and maybe make a clip about it.
Okay.
But go ahead and just
So you need my QR code?
yeah, just show your QR code on the screen, and I'm just gonna scan it real quick. And
Okay, let's see if this works on the. Sorry, it's I don't think I can send it to you, but I don't know if it'll scan. Let's see.
Yeah, let me see if it will scan correctly. All right, I'm gonna try to send you $1 worth. Let me see if it picks it up.
If not, I could.
I think it's blurry.
It's too blurry.
Yeah,
okay.
It's too
let
blurry.
me hold on a sec. Okay, let me just send it to you. Let me just text you and.
Yeah, text me your address, and then I'll go ahead.
I'll do it on Discord. I'll tell you exactly when I send it. So then, let's see.
Just send me that text with the address.
Dude, there's so many fake accounts following me from you, Caspa Silver. So I got to send
my
the right
goodness,
one.
yeah, they're crazy.
Yeah. Okay.
Right,
so I just sent you the address on Discord.
So go ahead and just show like your phone.
Okay.
So we can see how fast the balance
second.
appears.
Okay. So right now I have about 41 Caspa here, about $3. Sorry, it's a kind of blurry, but
so I'm gonna go ahead and send you 2 Caspa.
Okay.
So I'm gonna go ahead and paste the address in. All right, and then I'm just gonna click send on here. So
okay.
Send, and then confirm face ID.
There it is.
It's already there. And
do you guys see that? This is the 2 Caspa.
Yeah, ready, boom, there. And it's just amazing. Like that. Proof of work on a proof of work system. That's we don't have that anywhere else. And that's like that should be the main driving point for Caspa. You know, so yeah, I think we should wrap this up. It was great to talk with you. We should probably do this again sometime. Kind of just like come back every few months and kind of see where things are, and we'll go from there. So thank you so much for coming on.
Of course, and I really appreciate the invite. Learned a lot. It was great learning your perspective a little bit better without all the trolling of Bitcoiners. So it's I think it was a little bit better for me to learn rather than just screaming and calling each other certain words.
Yeah. Now we can go back to being bots on X.
All right, time to go be back.
As they describe us.
All right. Thanks so much, guys.
Thank you all for being here.